Hello there. Welcome to my channel. My name is Erin. Today, I would like to take a look back over the 17 years that I have been running a crafty business, Quilling specifically for me, and all of the mistakes that, not all of them, 11 mistakes that I have made over the years that if I was starting out now, I would want to tell myself and tweak my mindset mostly and do things a little bit different. So I wasn't paddling upstream in this business as much as I had to do. For most of the time that I was quilling in the early years, YouTube wasn't really a thing yet. It existed, but there weren't people on there quilling, that's for sure. And there weren't a lot of women talking about business. Um, there wasn't a lot of mentorship in any of those type of areas. So, if the mistakes that I have made can help anybody at all, great. That's amazing. I would love that for you and for me. So, I'm going to tell you about my mistakes. I started quilling, like I said, about 17 years ago after my dad was killed in a really tragic accident. And I was in such a deep, dark depression at the time. I was a cosmetology student and a young 27 years old married mother of two young toddlers, and I couldn't function. I just couldn't do it. I had to drop out of school for a while. I did go back, but that's another story. Um, and I just was not was not handling life. It was a really, really dark time. It was terrible. And I've always been a crafty person. I like to keep my hands busy. I used to be a very anxious person as well. Not any longer, thanks to quilling, actually. But at the time, I was a knitter. I knit all the time, but I couldn't keep count during my grief. I just couldn't follow a pattern. And I wasn't a good enough knitter to come up with my own designs or anything. So at around the same time, Etsy came on the scene, and I loved looking at things as a lot of us do now too. But um, at the time, it was so novel, it was new, and there wasn't a lot on there. But one of the things that I saw on there was a woman who made these like very intricately scrolly paper earrings. And I learned about the craft of quilling from just these image. That was all I could find on quilling. Just that. Just this image. And I had no desire to make paper jewelry, which is super funny now. I know it's ironic. I that didn't last, but at the time I just couldn't I was so enthralled, right? By the little scrolls and everything. And so I cut myself some paper. It was like all stuff I had at home. And I figured out how to do it. And I tried to kind of duplicate those designs and just to teach myself. And then I started trying to figure out other shapes and things like that. And I taught myself the art of quilling from there. I then decided that it would be really unique to put those shapes into mosaics, make paintings essentially. And that's what I did right from the beginning. I mean, like day two, I started working on a big 16 by 20 mosaic. And that's how that all started for me. And then I taught myself the entire craft. I never ever took a class or looked at a book or learned anything. I just like discovered this craft that has existed for a few hundred years. So I didn't do it in the same way as other people. And if you have my book, The Art of Modern Quilling, it goes through how I taught myself. That's not what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about these 11 mistakes. If I was to go back, I now have had a business for a long time, and it's been very up and down. And there's a lot of videos to come for sure of going more in depth about any of this. But for now, let's just talk about these 11 mistakes or things that if I was talking to someone just starting out right now, what I would highly recommend you think about and maybe do differently than how I did it. Okay. So let's start. These are in no particular order. Uh, one's not more important than the other. So I have a list. We're just going to kind of go through it and see where it takes us. Let's go. Okay. The first thing that I would love to emphasize, and I emphasize this to my students when I'm teaching classes too, is that when it comes to quilling, and honestly, when it comes to a lot of art forms and a lot of crafts, is that artistic talent really does not matter as much as we like to think it does or that we fear it does. It really doesn't play that big of a part. And in some cases, it's even sort of detrimental to the art form that you are developing. What does matter are skills. Skills matter. And skills can be learned and they can be honed and they can be improved upon. It just takes time. So instead of getting freaked out that you don't have an art background or that you can't draw, I can't draw either. I can't paint. I didn't go to art school. I thought about going to art school at one time, but my mother always encouraged me not to because my weird ass way of making art or of drawing is very me. It's become, the way that you can identify my work. So I decided not to go and to keep my very poor drawing skills and that translate very well into quilled pictures and jewelry and all of the things that I make. But the thing that I did do is I have spent so much time quilling, practicing, honing my craft. Not only have I been doing this for 17 years, but I often put in 60 or 70 hours a week working on this art form. I have taken a few years off actually in the middle of this at times where I barely did anything, quilling related at least. So it's not like it's 17 years the entire way through, but it's a lot of hours. It's definitely, way past that 10,000 hours, but probably like 30,000 hours. I put in so much time, and that is why my work looks like it does. But I wouldn't say I have any innate talent. I just am very dedicated to the craft. And you can be too. If you put in that time, if you love it and you try to get better, you will. I promise. Absolutely. Okay. Number 2, tools. Tools are great. They're amazing. They've come a long way. When I first started quilling, there were no quilling tools besides just a slatted and there were like some friskers and things that I was never really into. And I made my own tools, and those were also awesome. And over the years, a lot of new things, stacked forms and stuff that I used to make out of paper. Some of you that have been with me this entire time, you'll remember, even in my book, I teach you how to make a stacked form out of construction paper. And all of that is wonderful. But what I would encourage a new quiller or any artist is don't overly rely on tools. They will become crutches and they will keep you becoming a truly skilled crafter in your own right. And in my classes, that's what I try to teach my students too, is instead of using, circle sizers where you're to create a perfect coil, instead, learn how to control your tension. Learn how to control your strips. Know which way the paper is going to turn when you pinch it this way or that way. And I'm sure other crafts have similar things that you're going to learn. And, learn the fundamentals and then use tools as a way to even go beyond that, to make them perfect when you need things to be perfect. But it's art. And it really, really does not need to be perfect. In fact, the charm is in that it is not perfect. I have a lot to say on that, but we'll move on for now. Okay. Number 3. This one is really quilling specific, but I remember when I first started out and before I had the paper company, I was purchasing paper online and having it shipped to my house. And for a good portion of those early years, I lived in Hawaii and it was really expensive to get it shipped over to Hawaii. And so I would scrimp and use as little paper as possible and eke that out. My suggestion to you is don't do that. Don't do that. If you have to go and cut your own paper, then do it, but use more. Play around. Be okay with making mistakes. It's just paper and glue. That's the main ingredients for this art. So really don't try to conserve it. Be outrageously negligent with the amount that you use and see what you can come up with. I think that a lot of people have just fear of being wasteful, or I'm not sure. But it's a scarcity mindset thing, that's for sure. And I really made a lot of strides once I stepped back from that and just kind of went hog wild, and then just started making bigger and better and crazier things. So that's my suggestion. Can't speak. Do with it what you will. Okay. All right. Number 4, ignore the rules. So when I started, I didn't know the rules. Didn't know there were any rules. So when I taught myself, I learned quilling in a very, very different way than traditional quilling. Once I got onto Facebook, I started a website and I started teaching things on YouTube and Facebook pretty fast when I was starting out. And then I learned all of the traditional stuff. And by learned, I don't mean I learned them. It was people telling me what I was doing wrong. And I didn't listen to that noise. And I suggest that you don't listen to that noise. I have never used a pin in my life with quilling. I think it's ridiculous. It takes a lot of time. It's fussy. If I had learned quilling that way, I would not be a quiller now. That's for sure. I call myself a lazy quiller, and that's, just kind of silly. Really, I'm a smart worker. I do things the way that are the easiest, make the most sense, get the best results for me and for what I desire for my artwork. And I can't speak for you, and no one can speak for me and my process. But I do highly suggest that you just don't listen to anyone telling you that you're doing it wrong if you like the way you're doing it. If you want some alternative ways, great, go out and seek them. If you see stuff that you just don't agree with, then disregard it. Again, it's art. You can't do it wrong. You just can't. And anyone who tells you you can, doesn't matter. You just gotta let that go. Believe in yourself, Believe in the work that you're making. It's amazing, I promise. And if it's not amazing to you yet, it will be. Just keep going. Keep going. Okay? Number 5. This is going to be almost the exact opposite of what I just said. It is sometimes the most creative, enhancing thing you can do to make some constraints for yourself, to make some rules for you to follow in order to enhance your creativity. What do I mean by that? When I was first starting out, I used to do art trading cards and commissions. And for both of these activities, I would get a theme, someone would tell me what they want, and then I would have to make a mosaic, mostly, within these constraints. And it was never stuff I wanted to make. I wasn't interested in any of it. But because of that, I had to think really outside of the box. And our trading cards are really small. I think they're 2 by 3 inches. They're really tiny. So that's when I started working in miniature size. At the time, I was doing very simple mosaics. I didn't have those skills yet. And by putting myself in that type of constraint and working small, I learned so much. And I learned how much I like to do intricate design. Now, the more tedious the project, the more I enjoy it. I'm known for a lot of that kind of intricate work. And I would have never done that had I not put those constraints on myself. When you have a big, vast, you can make anything kind of attitude with as many colors. I had a paper company. I have so much quilling paper. It is out of this world. It's insane. I can do anything. But a lot of times that's the hardest place to start. It's like going to a restaurant that has a 28-page menu. Like, where do you even go from it? It's difficult. Narrow it down, close your focus, find a practice, and see where your creativity goes, see what you can learn. Even if it's not something you enjoy, just do it anyway and see what you get out of it. Because you will definitely get something out of it if you're looking to. That is, of course, it's always about attitude. So there's that. All right. Number 6. I think this is probably my most important one for myself, but this would be my best piece of advice to anyone, especially if you hope to have a business with quilling specifically, or another time intensive art form, is surrender. Surrender to the process of it. When I first started selling my work, mosaics specifically, I was trying to whip through them. I was making trees and flowers and it's the same stuff I make today, but it was different. It was much simpler. And they sold, but I wasn't having fun. I was going too fast. And it wasn't until I really allowed myself to just take a really long time and to just get tedious. And I mean tedious in the best way possible. That's a very, very good word in my world. I know it has some negative connotations, but it doesn't to me. I just learned to love the slow making process. It has become like meditation to me. It has calmed my nervous system. I have intense ADHD, and it's been pretty bad at different times. I used to take medication, but I don't now. Now I 100% keep it in check through quilling, through the slow making of art. And it is the most valuable practice I have in my self-care. I can't live the life I live or be the person that I am without this art form. and the time and attention to detail and the process that I use to make my art. It's so, so important to me, but it wasn't always that way. I really fought against it for a long time. In fact, it probably took me about 5 years until I stopped struggling with it and just embraced it. And then my whole world changed with it. I don't make nearly as many pieces as I could. I'm a very fast quiller when I need to be, but I don't need to be. So I'm not. And yeah, I just love it. And hopefully you will too, if you just surrender to it. All right. Number 7. This one's about materials. If you're buying your quilling paper, this isn't going to be as big of a deal, but I wish that I had in the beginning thought more about the longevity of my pieces and the materials that I was using. I was buying my paper from Amazon at the time, and so it was coming from China. It was just like real crap paper. I'm sure it was not acid free. I'm sure it was not archival. Um, I probably was just using Elmer's glue. I don't remember. I just didn't think about any of it. Honestly, it just didn't even cross my mind. Um, in addition to a lot of things that I do, uh, I sometimes consult with other artists. And this week I met with a man who is a paper artist in a different medium. And he had made a bunch of beautiful pieces. But he doesn't know anything about paper. And it turned out that he was just using a lot of found and recycled materials, including construction paper, and then not sealing them with any kind of protective sprays or anything, and then just putting them in frames and then hanging them up in direct sunlight and other kinds of lights. And it ruined them. It ruined a bunch of them. Some that he had up in some pretty high end establishments. And so he's learning now, and from going forward it will be different, but it's a hard lesson to learn. And I had some similar experiences back in the day. I don't want to do anything with that artwork anyway, but my suggestion would be try to think about your artwork as your legacy. Create in a way that it will outlive you. Take pride and care in the materials that you're using, protect them, and you just don't know what's going to happen with you and your career. You don't know what's going to be valuable down the road. Maybe not monetarily valuable, who knows? But they're heirlooms. They're like pieces that you have spent your time, energy, and love creating. Make sure they last. It's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. When you spend, 30 hours on a project and then a little sun ray hits it and it fades into gray. It's heartbreaking. So just spend some time thinking about that. If you have questions, reach out. Reach out. I'm happy to help. Okay, let's see. Number 8. Just finish it. I don't know how many pieces I started over the years that I just didn't finish because it wasn't working or there was something I didn't like about it. It just wasn't what I intended it to be. But this is what I've learned is that it all turns out in the end. It doesn't mean it's going to be a piece that I'm wholeheartedly in love with, not every piece is. But do you know how many finished pieces of artwork that I have over 17 years that I have in my studio that were not pieces I love? Zero, because I sold them all. Just because it's not a piece I'm in love with, someone else will fall in love with it. Some of the pieces that I just thought were the not not my cup of tea. They just did not turn out the way that I had hoped they would. Ah, just were the most beautiful thing to a person at a festival somewhere in the country. So just finish it. It does nothing sitting in your studio or in the back of a closet, definitely not in a landfill. And I promise you're at least going to learn something out of it. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened too. Almost every time, to be completely honest, is when I'm working on a piece halfway through, I think it's garbage. I think, oh my God, what am I doing? This is going to look terrible. And then in the end, it turns out and I really like it. Most of the time I like my work, but sometimes whatever. But most of the time I really like it. And that's not the case halfway through. And had I not finished it, I would have never known. If you've got half finished pieces, laying around, why not pick them up and finish them? That's a good challenge. Learn something, grow, grow, grow. That's my advice, is just have a growth mindset, get better. Take those challenges, okay? All right. This one's about growth too. Number 9, get critiqued. Don't be afraid to ask people better than you or from a different medium to critique your work. Not tell you how great you are, but literally critique it, because I promise you this: you are either better than you think or worse than you think. You probably do not have a really great understanding of exactly where you are. We spend so much time in this work. And the thing about quilling too, I find this tricky. I have found this very tricky, is because of the complex and intricate nature of it, especially some of the bigger pieces, like people think it's much better than it is because it's just so intense, right? But if you can take it to an artist who's much more educated about art in general, I'm not educated about art at all. I just know what I like and I know how to do a thing. But I have no education in anything that you would like actually learn in art school. So it has been so valuable to me to get it in front of eyes that know more than I do, that can talk to me about composition or light and shadow and all of the things. Um, it has been very valuable to me to enter contests and different competitions where you actually hear back. That's not very common, but I have done a couple things where I've seen um, written commentary on my work. And I remember this one time I entered a show in Chicago and it was judged by 3 different artists, and you got to read their notes. And maybe it was 4, but some of them thought it was like the best thing they'd ever seen, and other ones thought it was the worst thing they'd ever seen. Like, this is garbage. You cannot be in this show. So it's definitely subjective, right? So it's just really a good practice, I think, to get the opinions of other people whose opinions matter. I'm not talking about your neighbor Sue, who, you know, has no education in art or anything. I mean, I think all critique is kind of good in some ways, but but specifically, find people who are more that are just more intelligent about things than the level you are at this point in time. Um, I didn't do that or have that for years, and I do now, and it's very, very valuable and has helped me grow a lot. So I highly suggest that. Don't make that mistake. All right, number 10. We're almost there. This is more about the business side of things. Number 10 is don't undervalue yourself. Don't sell your stuff for nothing. This is so hard to do, and we'll definitely do some videos on pricing. This is something I still struggle with time to time, but I just recently quadrupled my prices about a year and a half ago when I had been working with a consultant. And it changed my life because not only did my work sell for that, but it did so much for me. I don't have to make as much to make the same amount of money. So I can actually live a little easier, which has then freed me up to make more art and start this channel and do a whole bunch of other projects. We're definitely going to have to go into this in another video, but that was a major mistake that I absolutely made forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I vow not to do it again. And just take that vow with me now. Don't undercharge. Don't undervalue yourself, your time, your talent, um, all of the work that you have put in to learn this beautiful craft and start your business. You deserve to be paid for the time and effort you are putting into it. Being an artist is very important to this world and to you and to me. So, yeah, value yourself. And then this is something that I just knew internally, but I didn't do. And that was a mistake. This is number 11. This is the one I only started doing this year. So on year 17. So if you're not doing this, don't fret. And we're definitely going to do some videos on this. But make work that you can make once and then sell forever. And what I mean by that is document your work. Get it scanned or scan it yourself or take really good photographs of it. I specifically mean wall art mostly for this one. And then make cards and prints and make money on that side. The original will sell and it will sell for whatever it sells for. And it will never feel like enough. But if you are then selling it in perpetuity, because you can sell prints and cards all over the place, wholesale. It feels like you're printing money. When I do a market every Saturday. I belong to a gallery. I sell so many prints, cards, and stickers, and I print them myself. I don't use a printer. I scan them or take the photographs myself, and then I print them. I do all of that myself, and I will show you how to do these things. But when they sell, it feels like magic, it's just instant money in your pocket. It's a huge markup, and there's some other interesting things that you can do with those too that I'll show you. But don't put it off for a really long time the way that I did. So I don't know. This is a pretty incohesive list of things, but I'm still getting my bearings on doing these type of videos. But hopefully it was helpful to someone, anybody. If it was, leave me a comment, reach out. All of the information on how to get in contact with me is below in the description. There's lots of ways to do that. If you want to interact in my quilling group, please do come and join. It's also listed below and it's free. Um, Feel free to email me, like and subscribe, and all of that stuff if you want to be notified when I put out new videos and tutorials that are under my angel policy so that you can make them too. So, yeah, thanks for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.